What is up, math superstars? In this edition of Mr. Peterson Presents, I'm bringing to you Objective 6.1. We are talking about a word that we call ratios. And so as we get started in talking about ratios, the very first part is we need to figure out what is a ratio. And so we have this definition for you to fill in here. A ratio is a comparison of any two quantities. So go ahead and pause your notes. Make sure that you have this definition written down. Once again, we're comparing any two quantities. And so as we go through this lesson, you'll realize that we're just comparing two different things. So in writing ratios, ratios can be written three different ways. One of them you are super familiar with. So anytime that you saw a fraction, so any fraction, it might be a fraction like 1/3. You could say that 1/3 is also a ratio. So another name for a fraction, we can talk to this as a ratio. Another way we can write this comparison here, a ratio, is we're going to use a colon. The colon is two dots. And so if we just use the numbers 1 and 3, we can write that as 1 dot dot 3. And so once again, we can write a ratio as a fraction using our fraction bar. We can write a ratio with colon, or we can use the actual word 2. And so we can write this as 1, and then we're going to write the word 2, 3. And so in this lesson, you're going to have to write the ratio three different ways. When we ask that, we're looking for the fraction bar, we're looking for the two dots, which is called a colon, and the word 2. So here we're given this picture. We have some footballs and baseballs, and we have to figure out the ratio of comparing these two quantities here. We have the footballs and the baseballs. But the very first step in solving any ratio problem is you need to find out how many are in each group and the total. And so let's go ahead and do this really quickly. We can see that there are 4 footballs. We label those 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure our count is accurate. We can say that we have 4 footballs. We notice that there are 2 baseballs, 1 and 2. So we have 2 baseballs. And we're going to count up the total number of sporting equipment that we have here. And so we say that there are, when we count them all together, there are 6 total items. So step 1 in figuring out the ratios, let's figure out how many you have in each category. So now in step 2, it says write out the different comparisons all 3 ways. So we're going to use how we write ratios 3 ways. And the directions also say to please simplify. So the first box here is that we're going to use footballs to baseballs. So remember that in ratios, this is the key right here. You want to make this note that the order and the way that it is written to you matters. So you just can't do it in any old order. You have to do it in the order in which it is written and given to you. That order matters all the time. And so footballs to baseballs. So we know that there are 4 footballs, and then there are 2 baseballs. So I'm going to write this in fraction form, and then I'm going to simplify it. So when I simplify this, it simplifies to 2 over 1. So I wrote this ratio now as in fraction form. I can also use the colon, so it's 2 colon 1. And then I can also write this using the word 2. So I'm going to write this as 2, 2, 1. In the next box, it says baseballs to footballs. Once again, that order matters. So baseballs, there are 2 baseballs and then 4 footballs. And I'm going to simplify this ratio. So the ratio of baseballs to footballs is going to be 1 over 2. And then I'm going to use the colon. So 1 colon 2. Or I can say it's 1 to 2. So I wrote that 3 ways. Now we're going to take a look at baseballs to the total number of balls that we have here. So baseballs, so there are 2 baseballs, and now the total, we want to use all of them. So we said that there were 6 total. Once again, a ratio, we're just comparing different quantities here. Let's go ahead and simplify that. That simplifies to 1 over 3. So I wrote that in fraction form. Come on, you're almost done. Let's simplify this. Write this 2 other ways. So we're going to write this as 1 colon 3. And then 1 using the word 2, 3. So last but not least, we have footballs to the total. So we have 4 footballs to 6 total in our mix here. That simplifies to 2 over 3. I'm going to use a simplified fraction to write this 2 more ways. So I have 2 colon 3, and then the word 2, 3. In step 3, we're going to write this out as a sentence. And so our sentence, I can say that and I'm going to use the simplest form. So you can use any one of the quantities here. I'm going to use the ratio of baseballs to footballs just for my ratio sentence. So my ratio sentence, I can say for every 1 baseball, there are 2 footballs. So for every 1 baseball, there are 2 footballs. So just writing it out as a ratio sentence. And then you might see this word equivalent ratios. So what we can say is we can make predictions based off of the simplest form of equivalent ratios. So if you have a big giant group of footballs and baseballs, we can say does that equal the simplest form of my ratio? So I can say that the simplest form of baseballs, once again, was 1 baseball for every 2 footballs. If I'm going to double that quantity, so if I'm going to double it, I'm going to multiply it by 2. I'm going to 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. So I can say that for every 2 baseballs, there are 4 footballs, which we have in the picture. What happens if I triple the simplest form? If I do times 3, I can say that you might have 3 baseballs and 6 footballs. That's actually the same as our simplest form of the ratio. For every 1 baseball, there are 2 footballs. And then if I do it times 4, I can do 4 baseballs for every 8 footballs. I can say that for every 5 baseballs, there's going to be 10 footballs. And so it's a way to figure out different problems. If it says that are these ratios equal or equivalent, you can use this lovely little ratio table, call this a ratio table, to figure out if your ratios are equal.